Hello, so this is my presentation on Chukchi culture for my world cultures class at school. So starting off with just some basic facts about the Chukchi. If you don't know who they are, the Chukchi are an ethnic group from Chukotka or Far East Russia, and they're originally reindeer herders as well as fishers, and they would hunt sea mammals. There's around 10,000 ethnic Chukchis left, although that's a very old statistic, so it could change. It could have changed. And the time zone is GMT plus 12, so it's very far distance, something like maybe at least something like 9 time zones ahead of Moscow. So Russia is a very big country. So, as far as language goes, the the Chukchi language is a part of the Chukotka-Kamchatkan language family, along with a few others, and it includes, which something I found very interesting about it is it includes both men and women's dialects. So, which isn't usually something that dialects are split upon. Usually, geographical division, but and this is just based on pronunciation though. So sometimes like R's are pronounced like S's in the women's dialect versus the men's dialect, or vice versa, something like that. Now it's a highly agglutinative language, which means there's a lot of like prefixes and suffixes that glue onto the end of words to change the meaning or add meaning. And it has an ergative absolutive alignment. I don't remember exactly what this means. It's some complicated language stuff that I don't really fully understand. But it's just another thing that makes it much more different from our Indo-European language family kind of, thinking. Maybe post me will add some info about it. It has a vowel harmony system, like Turkish, when I covered that last time, but it's a little different because there's like 7 vowels instead of 8, which means like there's kind of like you have like 3 and 3, and then like an odd one out that kind of can go with either. It's a little different. The language isn't related at all to Turkish. It's quite different, but it does have a vowel harmony system, like Turkish, and it has a CVC syllable structure or something like that. It's like consonant, vowel, consonant. So basically, what that means is just the very basics. It's kind of all over the place, almost like English, where a lot of stuff you kind of just have to memorize, like the placement of certain vowels. Not vowels, but like, let me just get into it. Basically, if you have a word, and there's like 3 consonants next to each other, you insert schwa vowel sometimes. Sometimes you don't, maybe. Like, that's the thing. I don't know. It's kind of strange. The rules kind of change a little. Almost like English, where it's like nothing's exactly the same 100% of the time. But you insert schwa vowels in between consonants to make it like consonant verb, consonant vowel consonant for syllables. And this will, I'm assuming this is kind of a thing to help alleviate like giant consonant clusters, so you're not pronouncing like insane amount of consonants all at once. I don't speak the language, but I'm assuming this makes the language flow much better if you can like have a vowel in between a bunch of consonants. There's a lot of other grammatical cases and interesting grammar rules and stuff like that, but it's too much to get into in this short video, so this is what I just can leave it as. Now, there's only one band I could find, and I'm pretty sure Chukchi music is very, very different from Western music. From what I hear, I'm pretty sure an instrument they use is called a mouth harp. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Just from listening to it, it sounds like a spring almost, kind of. It's like boing, boing, but you'll see when I play the video. There's also very interesting singing and like harmonies and melodies. So I found this one, which I think has this song, which has like most of the things that here. It's fortunately there's only like one band, and it's like only one band that makes like you know, music in sings in Chukchi, that I know of anyway. But we'll see. So here's the video. Oh, I scrolled, but yeah, that's honestly I like the song. It's not even bad. Like even though it's so different, I actually enjoy it. So oh okay. So now getting into folklore. Now storytelling is an extremely popular pastime, at least according to the document I read, the field study, or the part of it I read. It's like 300 pages long, and I didn't have the time to read all of it. But a lot of folk tales are usually populated by talking animals, and they can be either for just entertainment or to like teach a lesson, kind of, like the story with a lesson behind it, or just to entertain. And going a little bit into their like religion, kind of almost, they believed in like shamans. I don't however you pronounce it, and basically they have sort of powers that I guess that normal people didn't have. And one interesting thing, sometimes with like very hardcore shamans, they would, or not hardcore, but just like the professional ones. That's what the document referred to them as, professional shamans. So maybe someone who does it for like their living. And they would adopt like tendencies like the dialect and dress and customs of the opposite gender. I thought this was kind of interesting. I've never really seen it before. Just something I thought I'd point out. So, the Russian colonization. This is the transformative event that happened. So, basically the Russians came in. They were already kind of established contact, but then they really came in. And they standardized the men's dialect, although the women's dialect is still spoken and is, in some places, is spoken more widely than the men's dialect, but the men's dialect is what you will hear on like the radio, TV, stuff like that. They tried to make it everyone speak like the same standardized version of the language. And even though what the study said is that even though like the policies that the Russians made around Chukotka should have been very lenient towards the natives. The natives should have been given a lot of freedom. The enforcement was very like colonialist, I guess racist, and just overall not great. So their culture was kind of diminished, was definitely diminished during, earlier Russian rule in like the early to mid, maybe even early to mid 1900s. And now some schools do teach earlier grades in Chukchi or whatever the equivalent is there, but like I'd say anything like high school or above is taught all in Russian, with like a Chukchi course as just one course that you would take. But Chukchi is definitely still more prevalent in the rural areas than in the big cities like Anadr or other cities like that. And then, during World War II, the U.S. supplied the USSR with supplies, and like they went, up through Alaska to Chukotka, and then across to Europe. which I thought was kind of interesting. This is in the top right hand corner, there's a war memorial, I believe to World War II soldiers, and then the other picture is just a beautiful picture I saw from video by, if I can move my camera, Vagabond. He went there, Russian traveler on YouTube. He went to Chukotka, and he documented his trip. I like his videos a lot. It was very helpful. There's more pictures from him in this. And as well as I'm Sean, Get Off My Lawn, who made a video on Teneville, who I'll talk about in a second. But basically, he's Russian as well, but he speaks 7 languages. He's a language YouTuber, including English, very well. Speaks English very well. So he, and most of the books on Chukchi are in Russian, and most of the resources are in Russian, I believe. So I would likely have not known as much about the Chukchi culture and language if not for him. So yeah. And then material culture, I couldn't really find much about material culture. I know that reindeer are very important. From what I've seen, the reindeer and reindeer herding is very important to the people. That is, one of their main sources of food and one of the most popular meats in Chukotka. And here's a picture from the Chukotka Museum, again from Vagabond's video, where you can see sort of like, maybe traditional dwellings and clothing. I couldn't really find names or like, I found some other pictures, but it was kind of just like, I couldn't find the sources and stuff like that happened. So, and I really gotta finish this. So this is all I have. Unfortunately, this is the part that I wish I had researched more and wish I could tell you more about, but it's just I came up short. So non-material culture, just a tiny bit of this. There were apparently some traditional gender roles. The men would usually herd reindeer, build sleds, and train animals, while the women would gather nuts and berries, sew, process hides, cook, and raise children. But sometimes everyone would pitch in and help herd reindeer, if during certain times of year. And food. So, just from Vagabond's video, he went to a restaurant in Chukotka and ordered food, and he got a fish soup and a reindeer steak. Now, of course, it's, the frozen north. There's not much agriculture. There's no cows or horses. So deer, or I think it's reindeer specifically, is the kind of, like, meat they will usually eat. So, contributions. So, in Vagabond's video, there was a lot of street art and street graffiti. By actual art graffiti. Like whole wall art pieces. And here's an example of one of them, and it's very beautiful. And then also, just more to the linguistic world, but the contributions of Teneville, sort of unknowingly, basically what he did was he's said to have created his own writing system, not without knowing about any others. It's sort of like in between pictograms and then like Chinese logographic writing. But basically, he made his own writing system. I forgot to put a picture. Maybe I'll put it up in post. But he was quite the amazing person. But unfortunately, he died, I think pretty early. He was like 30s, 40s, I forget. And it was like a researcher was going there, was looking for him kind of, and was like going to go there, and like a year after, went there like a year after he died, and found like his family at his camp. And they had his transcription still, but like, he wasn't, they didn't have like the full, it was much harder to like to translate, or, some of it was even like unable to be translated, I think, because he was dead. And, it was only used really within his camp. And, the people there didn't speak Russian, and the researcher didn't speak Chukchi. So it was, it was a barrier, and it was like, if someone who had spoken Chukchi and Russian had gone there earlier and talked to Tenneville, it would have been much easier. We would have known much more about the origin of his writing system, and as well used the base 20 counting system of his native language, which I thought was cool. And yeah, that's about it. If I have anything else to add, I'll put it in post editing. But I think as of right now, that's about it. So yeah, I will see you all in the next project.